You're listening to Remotely We Are One, a podcast to help inspire others to take their lives back from the office commute. I'm Rick, a passionate beer rep who loves the industry but hates the commute.
And I'm Kaleem, a remote work advocate and consultant. We're going to speak with some of the top professionals who have managed to avoid the commute as they share stories from the most inspiring to the most comical, all while working remotely.
Man, this sounds exciting. Let's clock in. Good day, good day. Greetings, salutations, bienvenidos if you're from another country. You're listening to Remotely We Are One. Hey, Kaleem, we're actually doing this, aren't we?
I mean, Rick, I guess so, bro. I mean, it's, what is it? Episode 001, the very first thing, man.
You know, I'm really looking forward to learning more about this remote work movement that we're seeing all across the country.
Yeah, it's everywhere right now, right? Like we all had a chance to experience a little time at home. We got to let the listeners in on a little secret, man. You know?
A secret? Oh, I like secrets.
Where did we both grow up?
Bangor, Maine, baby. Center of the universe.
Yes. Oh, Bangor, Maine, where the light hits first.
Yeah, Bangor. It's not Bangor. Sure. It's Bangor. Don't ever make that mistake to a local yokel. They'll never forgive you.
That's right. Yeah. Crazy that we've known each other for 30 years, man. That's right. Right? 30 years.
It's crazy. It's crazy. You know, I think back about, playing on the football field at Bangor High School, and I'm like, I knew you when I was at Fifth Street Middle School.
Craziness.
It's crazy.
Man. And you know what? We're both down here in the South now. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and where are you at? You're Charlotte, right?
I'm in Charlotte. We escaped.
I never understood why some of our friends who lived in more of the wealthier areas, I'm not going to name any names, but why they came back tanned every year. I never understood it. I was like, why are you tan when it's freezing up here? Well, their parents figured that shit out.
Because they had means of escape. That's why. They're like, we're not doing this. We need some vitamin D.
For real. Hey, what's the first thing someone asks you, man, when you say you're from Bangor, Maine? What's the first thing someone asks you?
Bangor, Maine. Well, you must know Stephen King, right?
Actually, we do, don't we, Rick?
Indeed, we do.
Yes. And so do another 100 other people we know in the community. We all listen. Everyone from Bangor knows Mr. King. He's just an average dude.
That's very true. People down here ask me all the time, like, have you ever met him? I'm like, have I ever met him? He was my baseball coach. I'm like,
yeah, they're just a cool family, man. I didn't even know he was famous. Owen used to come to school in sweatpants and Converse, man. Like,
right. Well, I think that the humble beginnings of the King family still ring true. I mean, the guy still wears Converse All-Stars, ripped jeans. Some of my fondest memories of him are just walking around town with his nose buried in a book. Obviously, because of the material that he writes, he's got this mythic persona, but he's just a dude.
Just a dude. Loved baseball. Built us little league fields. I mean, so all of you out there, yes, we know him. It's not a big deal. Didn't even know he was famous until I was in like 8th grade. Shit, I didn't read then, Oh, the second thing and the last thing, and we'll move on because this is not a Maine podcast. Although maybe that we should do one of those. It could be.
Yeah.
The second one is can you say "car" for me? Like people think that's the cutest thing in the world. Can you say "car"?
Yeah.
And park.
The down east Maine is what people who aren't from Maine think that. People that are from Maine sound like the lobster guy, like he's out there all day on the coast fighting the storms and bringing up lobster traps, and he's miserable, and that's how we all sound. It's just not true. By gory, that was a nor'easter. I never seen anything like it.
Never seen anything like it. Yeah, Bob.
Yeah, Bubby, give me some chowder. I gotta rejuvenate. So circling the wagon back a little bit, Kaleem, you are a remote work expert, right?
That's what they say. Yeah, that's what they say now.
So I guess my first question for you is, what was the moment you realized that remote work is really what you wanted to do?
March of 2020,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And the pandemic hits, of course.
Mhm.
And they just shut down all the schools. People fighting in the stores over water here in Atlanta. So Atlanta has about 6 million people in it. And things were getting a little uncomfortable. Let's say that the toilet paper
Yes, for
was
sure.
running out, and people, the news was showing, people, fighting in stores, a few people getting shot. And there was something inside of me that just said, hey, look, if we go into, and at that time, we're not going to get too political on this show, people. So you got
Yep.
some relief there. But um, I assumed that the previous, president was going to go in the opposite way. I assumed that there was going to be more of a what's that called when declare martial law, where everyone had to go
Yeah.
inside. Like I
Yeah.
was thinking like the military and the National Guard was coming out.
Yeah.
So
So did I.
anyway, I was just like,
Yeah.
it makes sense. We have to stay inside. That's what it seems like. So
Yeah.
I happened to drop my mother off at the airport that morning she was going to go see my sister up in upstate New York, Ithaca. And something just prompted me to ask the lady at the desk, how much is 3 tickets to Maine one way? I figured, hey, if this thing's going to go down, I would much rather be in Maine where, hey, if we got to, escape to
Yeah.
Canada or whatever.
Head to the mountains.
Right.
Yeah.
So she said $99 each. I bought 3 one-way tickets to Maine, and we stayed in Maine from March until June of 20. And it was that moment, Rick.
Hmm.
It was that moment that I experienced what it was like to have a location independent lifestyle. Like,
Wow.
because my daughter was, and everyone's kids were in virtual school, because
Uh-huh.
she was in virtual school. My
Uh-huh.
partner was in, their job had gone remote, and I was working as a full-time developer at that point, a front-end developer, full-time remote.
Yeah.
So that was the first time that I experienced it, Rick. Like, wow, this is what location independence feels like. We left
Certainly.
that night. I bought the tickets at 9 a.m. for a flight at 10, and we stayed in Maine for 3 months. So it was that moment right there. Like, we'd already learned about remote work
Uh-huh.
earlier. It was that moment that made me decide to leave my employer in the middle of a pandemic
Uh-huh.
and do remote work consulting full time. So it was that moment right there of being able to leave. We weren't attached to our location because we worked. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was just it was that moment, man. It was that moment. How about for
Yeah.
you, Rick?
Well, I could go in so many directions with this, but one thing that's really turning my wheels is that I think years from now, and you're seeing it in every news article practically, the trending headline seems to be that years from now, we're going to look back on this as the Great Resignation. That seems to be the
Yes.
catchphrase of the day, right?
Yeah, of course.
And me, I'm on the road a lot.
Mhm.
I'm in sales. I bounce from place to place. So my office is essentially my car.
Yeah.
But that's still, there's still an office, but
Mhm.
that still doesn't improve my situation, because we both know I would much rather be at home.
Mhm.
So, what really cemented me to this movement was my kids and my wife. She's a teacher at the school that they attend.
Mhm. Mhm.
They were forced to go back to school without having been vaccinated.
Wow.
And, that was my moment of, okay, sooner or later, push is going to come to shove, and we're going to have to make some drastic decisions. What happens when school is if school becomes completely remote and I'm gone all day, and my wife is having to do her online classes with her
Correct.
class,
She's
you know,
teaching, right.
who's going to help my 5-year-old who's in pre-K, and he loves looking at a screen, but he doesn't like listening to his teacher. so that was my moment of, holy shit, this is the future. Like, if I can't manage my work affairs from home and be able to balance them with whatever
Mm.
else is going on in the world, and trying to take care of my family, I'm screwed. It's either going to
Right.
go in a direction of me being completely helpless and having a stroke or a heart attack or something, or not making money at all because I've got to go home. So it's a balancing act that I was not prepared for. And I've dabbled in freelancing, and I've done, as you know, I've done a million different projects over the years.
Yeah.
But I never really felt fulfilled. And I think I think that's the driving force behind what a lot of people do, is like, they love going to work. It's not the job. It's not working that they have an issue with. It's how is this making my life better? And I think a lot of that is because they're forced into the commute. They're forced in being away from home all day. And, it's much easier to work from the confinements of your own home when you can get up and move around, go to the bathroom or whatever. And you can just do work on your laptop. You don't have that freedom in the office when you're away, obviously, when you're away from home all day. Right. So I think that plays into a lot of the whole psychology of not having to go to the office anymore. And I think people have really woken up to that, and managers, these corporate offices, don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
They're coming up with all these different things. Oh, well, we could keep our thumbs on them when they're in the office, but how do we do it in their home? And I'm seeing that too. Like every moment of my day is documented. Like every move I make, there's an app that tracks my location, how long I take with each customer, how long it takes me to get to the next one. And I'm like, guy, really?
Right.
Right. You hired me as, like an independent worker here, but I don't feel so independent.
Right. I think there are a lot of people out there, Rick, that have a passion for their industry, right? And they want this flexibility in their life.
Yeah.
And they don't know where to go. They don't want to necessarily leave the industry. You love beer.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of people love beer, but
yeah.
So it's not a situation of like, oh, I hate this stinking job and I don't want to do this. It's more along the lines of people want to know how can I maintain this type of flexibility so that I can integrate my personal life with my professional life. And we use that term work-life integration at Blend. And I think that's where the big challenge is, because you have a lot of people believe that this whole remote work thing, A, it's not new. B, remote work is like right now during the pandemic, this is not what normal remote work is like for people who are maybe not having a great experience. You can't go to places. So we're all feeling the same thing. But yeah, just people, you don't have to necessarily leave your industry, to have this control over your time. It's almost like that's what we're witnessing right now, the struggle between employer and employee. Like,
absolutely.
Like, why do I have to come into the office if we're on 18 months now?
Yeah.
Why do I have to come in?
It's interesting you bring that up, because I did some freelance work for a digital networking company, and they build websites and they'd manage social media campaigns and stuff like that. A mid-sized company, maybe 1,000 employees or whatever. I got so good at social media content that I would just do a whole month's work in like 3 or 4 days. And I'd set up a calendar and post date each of those posts. And you know how you can do that
in the future. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And I got them all set up. And the guy came to me and he says, I want to make you a full-time offer because I really like your work, and my partners really like your work, and we think you're a good fit. And I was all excited. I'm like, finally, I love this. I'm working from home. This is great. And he says, the only caveat is that we want you in the office from 8 to 5.
Oh my gosh. Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
And I said, do you mind if I ask why? Well, we really like you and we want to get to know you a little bit, but we feel like we get more out of our employees when they're here. And I said, well, that's great that that's your philosophy, but I've already done all this work for you from home. I don't understand why I have to come in.
And that's the ticker right there, Rick.
He had no response. He's like, well, I just want to be able to throw things at you. I want to be able to come to you if I have an idea. And I'm like, you've been doing that with the cell phone, text messages. And I backed him into a corner. And finally he said, all right, the partners are willing to have you come in 4 days a week. We can give you one remote day. I said, no, sir.
No, sir. One remote day.
It's not going to work for me. Because I know how that direction goes. I know the path that was going down. It was only a matter of time before he said, well, we'd rather have you here 5 days a week.
I'm so happy that we're doing this, because your story, that exact example of what you just laid out there, is what so many people are dealing with right now. What I think has happened is that we've kind of gone back to the way it used to be a long, long time ago, where everybody was like a blacksmith for their own family business, or they had their own shop that was out of their house. They worked when they could. And it really wasn't until we became more of a, industrialized countries where, companies started creating these houses for their employees to live in. That's where it started first, right? Oh, we'll let you live in the shack while you build these railroads or whatever, right? And then it transferred to the office. And then what's crazy is I can't remember the guy's name who started the cubicle. There's a famous quote from him. He's the person who designed the cubicle, and he was like, "I wish I never would have designed the cubicle." And
yes, a buddy of mine calls it. He says, "I said, what do you?" I haven't talked to him in over a decade, and he calls me a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, "What are you up to now, man?" And you know what his response was? He says, "Honestly, I'm miserable. I'm still working for the same cube farm." And I'm like, "Cube farm? That is a brilliant depiction of what's going on right now."
It really is a cube farm.
Yeah. And all they're doing is they're herding in cattle and making them eat the hay all day long. Wow. That's all it is. Yeah.
I'm using that all the time now.
You should.
Cube farm. Cube farm. So what's happening right now, Rick, is the cube farm is gone. They can't watch you. They can't monitor you. They can't control what I was explaining as far as the shack to the cube farm. It's like, it's all about control over when you get the job done.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
There are some challenges. So I guess this is, a question I have for you is, as someone that I know that's kind of dealt with the anxiety before, do you fear anything as far as mental health or isolation? Do you have any fears about remote work? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I do, because I am well aware of how damaging isolation can be to somebody who struggles with depression and anxiety and different things like that. I think you really have to know what you're getting into. And thankfully, in my position, my industry relies on the social culture, of
course,
people getting together. And so I go out of my way to make sure I'm interacting with people every day. But if I'm, if I've got like a coding gig or something, a web developing job or whatever it might be, where I have to be looking at a screen all day and not talking to people, someone with my personality traits, that would be very detrimental to my mental health. I just couldn't do it. I have to be talking. I have to be interacting. And I would encourage anybody who's thinking about going into this industry, whatever niche it might be, to really consider that. It's great to want to be home all day by yourself, but really, really contemplate and dig deep and imagine yourself at home alone all day, talking to nobody, and what that might do to your psyche.
Yeah. It's really an important subject. And honestly, if you're to me, if you're going to look at all of the negatives of remote work, we're not going to say culture because that's such an empty statement. I'm so tired of hearing it's better for our culture or we believe. Or we believe. I
Yeah.
love that one because you don't have any data to support your beliefs. You just say we believe that everyone
It's
works
just
better in
an
an
opinion.
office. Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Again, they're empty, and that's what so many people are dealing with, these empty promises of on-site work.
Yeah.
But huge badonkadonk again, Rick. We're
Honky
talking
tonk,
about a
badonkadonk.
talking about a
Yeah.
big badonkadonk again.
Yeah.
The huge but is that like isolation and loneliness is the biggest downfall to remote work.
Mhm. Yeah.
Communication as well. I mean, we're going to kind of, I'll lump those all kind of together, like connections,
Yeah.
communication, and socialization. Those are the downfalls. Those are the big things that you're missing. And one
Hmm.
thing that I would say, Rick, like, and I'm really excited. Hopefully along this journey, something changes for you and you are a location independent professional from all these great guests we're going to have.
Yeah.
Um, but one thing that we talk about is that the organization has to have a lot of responsibility in the socialization. If you're going to make the switch to hybrid or even fully remote or hybrid, half in office, half, that's what everyone's talking about these days, hybrid remote. um as the organization, you have to put in some things that are going to ensure that connections can be built. Everything has to be intentional. You have to build these things into your programming. So
Hmm.
that's from the organization side, and again, all of these things that I would suggest are things that we should probably wait until this, you know, Delta COVID-19 thing is over. And I think that is the biggest problem that people are having. Because right now
Yeah.
we can't get together. We can't do the things that we would advise. So as far as an individual is concerned, if you want this workplace flexibility because maybe you need it for taking care of a loved one or you want to be around more for your children, you want to
Hmm.
do all of these things as an individual, you need to take on the responsibility, like you said, of digging deep and scheduling those interactions with people. So once we're back from COVID-19, if you're someone who just, you know, can't handle being alone, and you know what, most of us can't handle it. We shouldn't, isolation for
Right.
anyone is not healthy.
Right.
Join a co-working space.
Hmm.
Join a co-working space to help you with that routine. Some people miss the routine of getting up and commuting and having that separation. A lot of people enjoy
Absolutely.
that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So, but you can emulate those things. You can create those things. And that's what I would suggest. You would join a co-working spot, go to a
Hmm.
Starbucks, get up and shower. Believe it or not, the showering thing is
Yeah.
is a challenge.
Yeah. I always, when was in a rut, especially in the last 18 months or so, I found that just going out for a walk and getting fresh air was enough to turn my day around, and
Mm,
it was such a mindless act. Pop
wow.
in my headphones and listen to my favorite music or podcast, even doesn't matter,
Mm,
self-help, whatever, and some days I went and just didn't listen to anything. I just enjoyed the fresh air and got out in the breeze, and it did absolutely everything that I wanted without even asking to do anything. I just did it. And I think that it doesn't matter what you do, it's the fact that you did something. And if you can keep that in mind, you'll be fine.
yeah. It's important. It's important to
Yeah.
do that. So, I
Yeah.
mean, we're gonna have lots of deep conversations, like we're gonna have some
Yeah.
deep convos. We're gonna have some professionals in here that are gonna talk about their story and how they adapted to this workplace flexibility lifestyle, this remote work lifestyle, and what they did.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want, of course, Rick. The other thing that we got to bring into the show that I don't think other people are really doing, I haven't seen it, as far as remote work shows out there, but it's like we got to bring in a little bit of laughter. Remote work allows for a lot of comedy. And I don't think
it sure does.
I mean, I don't think that there's enough talk about some of the comical things that have happened during this time. And I think they're going to continue to happen. I want to hear some stories about Zoom meetings gone terribly wrong. So I just brought this one up. Yeah. And I feel like that this is a great one. I'm going to read it to our listeners. And mind you, listen, this is not, a show that you should be listening with your kids all around you, because, we're going to curse once in a while, but we're going to say some funny things. All right. So here's what we're looking at right now. This is a tweet. So here we go. Zoom meetings gone terribly wrong starts now. My kid just walked into a video conference, yelled, "Look at my penis," and then hit the button on his fart machine. Working from home, going really, really great. Now, Rick, what happened here?
What happened here was a kid being a kid and not fully understanding the role that his mother was taking in doing a Zoom conference call. It's the total breakdown, the relationship between a professional adult and their totally unprofessional child.
I love it so much because I could just see myself doing that as a kid, not as an adult. It'd be a little weird, but as a kid, I can see myself doing that. My mom being so pissed.
Mine too.
I love that so much.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to entice all of our guests to share their funny stories if they have them. And, I believe everybody does. Some people aren't comfortable talking about the more risque ones, but those are the best ones. Those are the funniest. So I think it would be a great thing for us to do every episode to say, hey, what's your most memorable Zoom experience that that you can't believe you witnessed?
Hopefully we can get Jenna Weiss Berman in. We'll start spamming her to see if we can get her to come in and talk about this story. And does she still work there? I mean, there's so many questions that I have for her about this situation. So anyway,
yeah. I'm
what
excited.
Do you think? You think we should do it?
I think we have to do it. There's no, we've dangled the fruit out there now. We have to pick it. Well, I want to thank you for joining Kaleem and I today. This has been an awesome discussion, and I really, really like where this is going. We're going to be back soon for the next episode, and I really hope that you're there to join us.
Well, Rick, man, I think it's time that we clock out. Let's clock out.
See you next time. You've been listening to the Remotely We Are One podcast. Visit us at remotely1.com/podcast for upcoming episodes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and download our episodes on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, don't forget to clock out.